Sports. Can't say I really get it, but tons of people all around the world are obsessed with sports of all kinds, from football, the European kind, to football, the American kind, and even football, the Australian kind. Why are there so many sports all called football? But today's video is about baseball, America's pastime. It's their favourite thing to do aside from have the CIA fuck with foreign governments. And while I certainly don't understand all the rules of baseball, I have seen The Sandlot, so I'm basically an expert.
If my dog was as ugly as you, I'd shave his butt and tell him to walk backwards.
Our story this time, however, has little to do with the actual rules of the game, and is instead a tale of bitter rivalry, organizer incompetence, and heavy intoxication, the last of which in particular I am also an expert in. This is the story of the infamous 10-cent beer baseball game. Our tale takes place in 1974, involving two teams, the Cleveland Indians and the Texas Rangers, who at the time had a not-so-friendly rivalry going on between them. And in May, the teams had a match in Texas, the Rangers' home state, which saw a number of foul or potentially dangerous plays taking place one after another, which eventually led to Rangers player Lenny Randle striking Indians pitcher Mitt Wilcox with his forearm when Mitt tried to tag Randle out. By the way, a baseball pitcher named Mitt. This guy had a fucking destiny to play baseball. Seeing Randle strike Mitt, another Indians player, John Ellis, walked over and punched Randle, which resulted in what is known as a bench-clearing brawl, which Wikipedia amusingly describes as a form of ritualistic fighting. Basically, both teams just get up and punch the shit out of each other for a while, before eventually being broken up. And once the fight was eventually broken up, the huge majority of Rangers fans in the stadium began to hurl beer and food at the Indians players that were on their way back to their dugout. Still, the game continued anyway, with the Rangers eventually winning 3-0. But all of this was merely a precursor to the terrible events that would take place in the following game the next month, when the Indians and the Rangers had a rematch in Cleveland. Pretty immediately, the Cleveland Indians fans are pissed about the results of this match. From the 3-0 loss, to the foul plays, the fighting, and the humiliating way that the Indians players were treated by the Rangers fans, the Indians fans are not happy to say the least. And the fans were about to get a whole lot less happy, as immediately following the Rangers win, a reporter from Cleveland asked the Rangers manager, Billy Martin, if he was at all worried about any problems from the fans at the next game in Cleveland against the Indians again, after everything that had happened in this game. To which Billy replied, "Nah, they won't have enough fans there to worry about." Billy probably could have phrased that better, and to say the least, his words did not go down well in Cleveland. His words were just more fuel to the fire for the already enraged Indians fans, and they had no intention of taking this lying down. So, determined to prove Billy wrong and avenge their beloved team's humiliation, a number of individuals related to the baseball scene in Cleveland started to think on what they could do. Radio presenters spent the time leading up to the next game making inflammatory remarks and stoking the fires of the Indians fans' anger. A local newspaper, The Plain Dealer, printed a cartoon of Chief Wahoo, their mascot, holding boxing gloves and the caption of "Be ready for anything." But these methods would soon be topped when the Cleveland Indians promoter came up with a genius idea. What if we sold beer for 10 cents each? Surely that would promote a huge turnout. And, well, they weren't wrong, but... So, it's finally June 4th, game day, and pretty immediately there's a huge issue. The organisers were expecting a big turnout, 12,000 people or so they thought. Well, they have a problem, because more than twice that just showed up. And while many of them were passionate Indians fans here to support their team and avenge the humiliation they had faced, just as many of them were just here for the party. I mean, 10 cents a beer, no purchase limit. I mean, seriously, what the fuck were they thinking? So the two main demographics we have turning up are either already angry at the way their team was treated in the previous game, or just here to get really drunk. I'm sure this is going to go great. Well, nobody had to wait long for problems to arise. as despite the hostile crowd, the Rangers were in good form and quickly took a sizable lead, which drove the already infuriated Indians fans into even more of a rage. And when the Cleveland batter, Leron Lee, hit the ball directly into the Rangers pitcher Ferguson Jenkins' stomach, the crowd cheered as Ferguson fell. Soon after, a woman ran out onto the field and began to flash the crowd to thunderous applause, bringing the game to a grinding halt. And just after she got restrained, a naked man leapt the barrier and began to sprint around the field, bringing the game to another halt while officials tried desperately to catch him. This was all followed one inning later by a father and son who ran out and mooned the crowd, again to thunderous applause. And as the audience became more and more inebriated, all of these events were definitely taking the focus away from the actual game. Soon, the fans began to hurl food en masse at any Rangers player that got too close to the stands, and eventually someone started to throw firecrackers into the Rangers bullpen. But despite all of this, the game was able to continue, until one Indians fan, Terry Yerrick, ran onto the field and attempted to snatch the cap of the Rangers outfielder Jeff Burrows.
It's beautiful!
In the scuffle for his cap, Burrows tripped, and thinking that their player was being attacked, good old Billy Martin organised his players to grab their bats and charge the field to protect their teammate. Not his best decision. Seeing this, the highly intoxicated and outraged Indians fans thought that the Rangers were going to attack Terry and charge the field in support. And as the fans poured in from the stadium seating, the Rangers were quickly outnumbered by a huge margin. The 25 men on the Rangers team with nothing but their bats were desperately trying to defend themselves against the hundreds of angry fans wielding knives, chains, and clubs. Seeing this, the Indians players rushed to the Rangers' aid armed with their own bats, and the two teams fought together against the rapidly growing angry mob that had stormed the field. Eventually, the Indians and Rangers were able to retreat back to the Rangers' dugout and escape. And while some of the players had been injured, miraculously none of them were serious. And this right here is what makes this story special to me. Despite all of the drunken rioting and fighting and stupidity on display, the Indians players coming out to defend their rivals against their own fans, it takes some guts, and honestly hats off to the entire Indians team for what they did there. After the players had escaped, it took 20 minutes for the Cleveland police to arrive and disperse the crowd. Ultimately, just 9 fans got arrested for their assault on the Rangers team. A pretty small number considering literally thousands of them stormed the field. And that's the story of 10-cent beer night. This is definitely one of the dumber promotions in MLB history, but there are actually competitors. Maybe we'll have a look at those some other time. But for now, I wanted to say thank you again for watching another one of my shitty videos, and if you're interested, consider subscribing to see more shitty videos like this one, whenever I can be bothered to make them.